To snap, fade route, back run of the end zone, 50-50 ball! Touchdown, Huskers!
Nebraska wins its 5th national championship.
Giving you an inside look at everything going on in Husker Nation. This is the KLIN Husker Hour.
Kicks and deals the 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Jackson Brockett has the first 9-inning no-hitter for the Nebraska Cornhuskers since 1954, and he did it on his 12th strikeout.
Sunset Valley, underdog, and then one! Exclamation point! Pump the brakes!
Now your hosts, KLIN contributor Cole Stukenholtz and sports director Nate Rohr.
Good Saturday morning. Welcome to another edition of the KLIN Husker Hour, a review and preview edition. We've got a game to react to after Thursday night's Nebraska opener against Cincinnati. More volleyball to talk about. Traveling to and from Kansas City stories to be told, I'm sure. And we've got a fun show. Evan Bland will be along for the ride as well from the Omaha World-Herald a little bit later on. Right now, we've got Nate Rohr coming from, I'm actually not sure where. It doesn't look like your basement, Nate. Where are you at these days?
An undisclosed location, the Fortress of Solitude on the road. Hotel room in Kansas City. I went to the Royals game last night. Of course, it ended disappointingly with Kansas City losing the game, but still a fun time had. Jordy Ball throughout the first pitch, and so we had a good time, and then came back here to the hotel, and the fam and I are going to check out Kansas City a little bit today and then head home tonight. So a second lodging place here in Kansas City for this excursion. We were at Frat House KLIN for the first night of it, Thursday night, and now the hotel tonight, or last night.
Otherwise known as Animal House, maybe?
Yes. Yeah, well, it sadly, it was not very animalistic. Kenny Larrabee, our ace photographer, and also our
social media,
video producer,
StreamYard, everything.
Yes, yeah, he's the guy that puts pictures to radio. He and I got back to the Verbo at about 1 a.m. I think, maybe a little later, and then Kenny and I still had work to do. We were uploading. He was uploading photos. I was cutting up sound for the radio show the next morning. And so we were hard at work into the wee hours, and then had to wake up early to get the morning show on the air. But we got it done and had a good time. And then Jack was gracious enough to let me crash there a few extra hours, and I got somewhat caught up on my sleep, and here we are.
Yeah, this radio life is not for the faint of heart. I tell you what.
No, sir.
Nor was it for any Husker fan who was making the pilgrimage down to Kansas City, because I took the trip down there myself. We left about 10 a.m. on Thursday. Got down there a little bit quicker than some folks who left around noon or 1. But boy, that was a long drive, made even longer by some construction and a lot of traffic. The Mound City Casey's was hopping with Husker fans. It was a pretty fun time. There's a Whataburger by the KCI airport that was also overrun by Husker fans. So we were everywhere, and it really made its impact inside Arrowhead Stadium, and it was a very integral part of that finishing kick that the Black Shirts maybe needed right there at the end. And Nate, with this game having come down to the wire, being really close, it really revealed to me, I think, two kinds of people who witnessed this game and who follow Husker football. And those two types of people are, of course, those who don't love the Herbie Taylor Swift photo mashup and those who do. Because that really got people polarized on both ends of the spectrum. Nebraska actually ended up taking the post down because the Swifties came for him. But yeah, if there's nothing that divides Husker fans like a social media post, huh?
Yeah, apparently. I thought it was funny, especially where
Yeah.
Travis Kelce is a Cincinnati grad, and he, I'm sure he laughed at it. Bless Herbie, and I'm sure he has his charms, but I don't think he's beating out an all-pro tight end who's got a golden retriever's sense of humor for the affections of Taylor Swift. It's just like we're gonna get so mad about a picture of a photoshopped picture of a mascot with a celebrity. Like what are we doing here? Whatever. If it makes you happy that they took down the picture, okay, fine, good for you, I guess. But learn to laugh a little bit. I'm sure both sides laughed. It was funny. It wasn't in horrendous taste or anything, so just laugh at it. Come on.
Yeah. If it makes you happy, nice Sheryl Crow reference to Cincinnati's social media. So I don't want to call it a victory lap. I would never say that, despite the fact that I said it would be close. I got the Cincinnati cover. I got the under. I got the Nebraska win, but it's not a victory lap. I'm just going to say the game kind of played out not exactly the way I envisioned it, but I didn't see Nebraska pulling away yet. They're better than they were last year, I think, in a lot of ways. I think they're more talented than Cincinnati, but they still have to figure some things out. They're not the finished product, nor is anybody going to be at this time of year. And I'm just the only thing that you should want if you're a Husker fan coming out of this thing is no injuries, which I think they don't think they got out of there without that injury to Janiron Bonner, unfortunately. Right. But no injuries is what you would want. And obviously you want the win. They got the win. And still, as tough as it's been for this program to win close games, Nate, there's still so many Husker fans out there complaining about it. What do you want from these people? They won the game. They got it done on not in Memorial Stadium, not a road game, but a neutral site, and their first opening win over a power conference opponent in 22 years.
Yeah.
Just take the W, people.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we walked out of a stadium going, geez, why couldn't they make the play, to end it? Well, Malcolm Hartzog made the play. He was able to come up with that ball in the end zone, and especially, the psychology of that moment is so huge because it was coming right off the defensive holding penalty. And the stereotype, the picture of the program, the caricature that people have is anytime Nebraska gets in the clutch moments, close games late, they melt down. They do stupid stuff. And that manifests itself in playing outside of yourself. And for a moment, it kind of looked like Malcolm Hartzog did that with the defensive holding penalty. But he, being the veteran that he is, he shook it off. He understood, okay, I screwed up, but we haven't lost this game yet. And he made the next play. And you're gonna screw up down the stretch in football. It's just gonna happen. The question is, how do you bounce back? If that error doesn't kill you, how do you bounce back? And they bounced back in a supreme way. And Malcolm makes the play that clinches the game, that finishes it off. So that was a step in the right direction. That's not to say there weren't things to criticize out of that game, but the general idea of it, the general grade of it should be just win, baby. And this is the age of college football we live in. Other than the next two non-conference games where Nebraska's got a pretty substantial talent advantage, the fact of the matter is college football is even enough to where if you're walking out of a game with a power conference opponent with a win, could be by 1, could be by 100, could be anywhere in between. you got to feel good. You should feel good, or else this life is not for you.
Mhm.
You're going to have a lot of unhappy days. And again, it's not to say that there aren't things that they should have worked on, or that they should work on, that they're going to work on here in the next 4 or 5 days leading up to the Akron game. But just in a general sense, they found a way to win. And here's the other part, Cole. For all the concern about Nebraska can't win the close late game, they've found a way to win close and late twice in a row. The Boston College game, in the Pinstripe Bowl, and now this. And I understand that people aren't looking at that as the step forward that I think they should be, because look, Nebraska's found a way to lose to teams of lesser talent in that situation. But now they're finding ways to win, finding ways to finish it off. And again, that's a step in the right direction. Doesn't mean the program is fixed, doesn't mean a national championship is imminent, but you've got to walk before you can run. And winning these sorts of games, finishing them off, is the walking before the running that you need to do what we all hope this program does: contend for the playoff, contend for the Big Ten championship. And it's a step that you can't really skip. It's not something where all of a sudden you find a way to beat Michigan. You need games like this in the interim to take you closer to where you can beat a Michigan, a USC, whatever.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're on the StreamYard right now. If you want to check us out on video, we are on the KLIN YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook pages. We're also on the KLIN Husker Hour Facebook page. We got Kenny Larrabee getting us up on the StreamYard. Thanks to Kenny, as always, as we enter the season portion of the calendar. And then one of the things that I want to talk about in a little bit is Matt Rule's decision-making at times in this game. I think there were a few critical moments. Some were obvious, and then there were a couple that I don't think were obvious, but I want to highlight those a little bit too. But it really does come down, I think, in a game like this, Nate, to who makes mistakes and who doesn't. Like, that's a very simple truth that unfortunately has gone against Nebraska too often lately. And in this game, now there were some close calls. You had the what would be dropped interception on the 4th down at the beginning of the 3rd quarter.
Yes.
Nebraska fumbled twice, but neither were recovered by Cincinnati. But there was one team that took it away twice, and one team had 0 turnovers. And then the other thing, special teams was excellent from Nebraska. There were no mistakes. You had 2 field goals that were both made, including a 52-yarder. Nice job to start your career off at Nebraska, Kyle Cunanan, and might I also add Camden Cook and Kevin Gallick. Nice work by the battery for the kicking unit. Also 3 punts inside the 20, 2 of them inside the 10.
Yes.
Nice work, Archie Wilson. And that's the stuff that you have to do. And if Nebraska didn't do all of that, this thing maybe goes the other direction.
Sure.
If Wilson shanks one, it goes 9 yards. Maybe Cincinnati gets down there and they're able to put it in the end zone instead of kick a field goal, or maybe they're able to get a field goal when they didn't get points otherwise. And then you're looking at 20-20 at the end of the game instead of 20-17. So the very slight edge that exists in a lot of these games, that special teams phase has bit Nebraska a lot. We talked about this all off season, the impact that Mike Eckler could have. We're already seeing that impact helping lead to a win in week 1 of the season, Nate.
Yeah, the one pushback I would have there is the kickoff out of bounds. But even that, John Hull kicked the ball out of bounds. He didn't kick off again. They had Cunanan kick the ball off the rest of the night. But otherwise, I agree wholeheartedly that Nebraska's special teams were clearly better. They did not make the big mistake other than the kickoff out of bounds. But the field goal operation was very tight. Cunanan looked like he had a ton of leg, looked like he was very accurate. And then Archie Wilson did what we were all hoping he would do. I mean, 2 punts inside the 10, including the punt to start the last Cincinnati drive. Again, that's a point where so often before even if Brian Buschini's average was good, for some reason, that specific punt would be the 28-yarder, or it would be a line drive punt and the coverage would bust and they'd be up at the 35. Wilson did what he was supposed to do. He buried them not just inside the 20, but inside the 10. They had 91 yards to go with no timeouts. Field goal to tie, but, touchdown to try and win. But Nebraska had the length of the field to defend them. And in those situations, that's an asset. I mean, you're going to give yards. You're happy to give yards and completions, just as long as the clock runs and you keep them in front of you. But Wilson gave Nebraska the best chance to win that game. And for his very first football game, he did his job to a T, and did it really well. So I agree with you, especially when Nebraska's kicking. So field goals, punts, kickoffs, other than the kickoff out of bounds, which is a black mark, they got the job done on special teams. And just as a whole, they got the job done on special teams, and that set them up well. And especially where this defense, for the most part in the game, was pretty good, save the last couple of drives. It gave them some margin for error to get settled in and really limit Cincinnati's playbook. So, with the margins being as tight as they are, even just inside the 10 instead of inside the 20 on that last punt's a huge deal. And Nebraska was able to capture that small advantage, which was the reason why they were able to hold on to win.
Yeah, you're right. Like, let's say that punt goes into the end zone, so that they're at the 20. All the rest of the plays being equal, instead of starting that interception play from the 33, they're already at the 22. They're in field goal range.
Right.
They're probably
tied.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to overtime. How do you feel about overtime, Husker fans?
Yeah. Let's not.
Let's just, we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah. Not on the opener. All right. We've got plenty more for you. As I mentioned, we're going to get to Evan Bland from the Omaha World-Herald. He's going to join us here at 9:30. I've got some decisions that Rule made that I think swung the game in Nebraska's favor, including a couple of them that I don't know that were super obvious. And then some tributes that were out there. There's one today for Lee Corso on game day, and then there was a very lovely one yesterday on the broadcast for Greg Sharp. And volleyball. Huskers sweep yesterday. They've got another top 10 opponent this weekend. We'll get to all of that and more when we continue on here. We'll join us on the StreamYard if you can, and we'll see you over there. More to come here on the KLIN Husker Hour. Stay with us.
Inside look at everything Huskers. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on 1499.3 KLIN.
Rolling along here on your Saturday morning, recapping Nebraska 20, Cincinnati 17. And Nate, there were a few decisions that Matt Rule made that I think swung that game in Nebraska's favor. You can start with the fourth down decision in the fourth quarter where they had the timeout right after the fumble goes out of bounds. You have a third down and then a fourth down. I think it was pretty clear to me they planned on going for it regardless in that scenario where you run it on third, and then depending on what happens on third down, then you call your fourth down play. Never going to kick it there, and they get the touchdown to Dane Key. You had the field goal starter that goes the way of Cunanan, and he hits it. I think that's good because you either build confidence in him regardless, like, hey, we trust you to make it. If you don't, hey, it was long. We'll get you out there again. But then he makes it. That does wonders for your confidence for the holder and the long snapper too. But the ones that got me, I think at the very end of the first half, you had 2nd and 1 for Cincinnati. They throw the swing pass that Javen Wright blows up right away. And then it's 3rd and 5, but he's in bounds. The clock's ticking, and Rule runs out, immediately calls timeout. Cincinnati could have taken that thing under a minute. Instead, they don't. Rule calls a timeout. And I like that because he was being aggressive and he wasn't just letting the game come to him, which I think can happen. And he's been criticized of clock management issues before. That was good. That was a good clock management example. They get the turnover 2 plays later, the terrible third down spot notwithstanding. Like, What are we doing? But they get the fumble, and then they had plenty of time, and they go down and score the touchdown to take the 13-3 lead at half. And then the other one, when you have Sorsby kind of killing you late with the run game, he had he was their leading rusher, and he had over 90 yards rushing total. Yeah. He gets the first run on their last drive, and then what do? They spy him with Deshaun McCullough. Sure. He's not coming off the edge. He's lining up behind the defensive tackle. He's watching where Sorsby goes, and Sorsby only ran it 2 more times that drive. Yeah, it takes a little away from your coverage, takes a little away from your pass rush, but that pass game is not their strength. And you saw ultimately at the end, the secondary for Nebraska won out in part because Sorsby couldn't just run. He had to throw it a lot more. Right. And the McCullough spy really worked. So Matt Rule did a lot in that game, I think, to lead Nebraska to victory. And it's not always about the coaching on Saturday. A lot of the coaching happens before the game, but Rule made a lot of decisions on Thursday that helped Nebraska get across the finish line.
Yeah, you look at it in the micro, and you mentioned the fact that calling the timeouts as he did in the first half maximized the Huskers' chance to win or to get points in the first half. And that says a couple of things. That speaks to faith in your defense, that they'll come up with a stop. And, as much change as there is on that defense, I almost said inexperience, and that's not exactly the case, but there's a lot of change on that defense. So that gave them some confidence. It also shows faith in your offense because you're telling them, look, the offense is going to make this worth our while, because they're going, if we get them the ball back in reasonably good shape, they'll give us a chance to score. Now, Vincent Shavers makes a hell of a play, and instead of a chance to score, where that ball was, they were going to score. It was either going to be 3 or 7. Yeah. But you don't get the opportunity to score there unless you're smart with how you use your time. And then, spying Deshaun McCullough or spying Sorsby with Deshaun McCullough, it was a must. I mean, look, Sorsby was not going to beat Nebraska throwing the football. You look back on this game, I think it was 13 for 25, low yardage. So he wasn't going to beat you. Yeah, under 100 yards. So he wasn't going to beat you downfield. And so even if you weren't getting much of a pass rush, and if we're being honest, Nebraska really didn't, at the same time, he wasn't going to throw it 30 yards down the field and beat you. If he was going to beat you, it's because he broke a run. And so by taking that away, I mean, it's the quintessential strategic move of, I will take away your best weapon. If you can beat me with something else, I'll tip my cap. But they took away what was working best for Cincinnati, especially in the moment where it mattered most. And, as you look at the macro, think of the value of Matt Rule's leaning toward versatility. on defense, right? Because Deshaun McCullough, I think in his heart of hearts, wants to be a pass rusher. He wants to be a pin my ears back and go get the quarterback, but he has the physical attributes to do more. And there are a lot of guys like that on that defense that can be, that you can line up on the defensive line, or you can line up at defensive end, and they can come after the passer, sure, but they also won't get you killed in the running game, and they can also go back in coverage. So the decision, or sort of the organizational value that Matt Rule has toward versatility, toward being able to do many different things, I think that showed out as a strength too. So yeah, it was really a game where Matt Rule, you can bicker about late game time management decisions, trying for a field goal, trying for a touchdown drive, how you use your timeouts, whatever. He won those in this game. And then some of the macro decisions he's made and how he's built the program were also really important too. So it was a real good night for Matt Rule.
Yeah, the other thing that I would point out, obviously, you get the touchdown in the fourth quarter on the fourth down inside the 5. They had a similar scenario at the start of the second quarter, or in the middle of the second quarter, I should say. Nebraska's third drive, where they're driving beautifully. It's 12 plays, gets them to the 1-inch line after Lindenmeyer's catch and run, right? And then you're first and goal from the 1, and the false start comes.
Yes.
So they're still inside the 5. It's a very similar situation to what they went for it on in the fourth quarter, but I would argue it was the right call in the second quarter to just take the points. Number one, you get a lead, which you hadn't had yet in the game.
Right.
Number two, you give another shot at that field goal unit a lot easier. You continue to build their confidence. Number three, the vibes are just off at that point.
Sure.
You took yourself back. It was not Cincinnati that drove you backwards. It was your own fault. You have to take your medicine at that point if you're Nebraska, and I think they did that, and I think that was the right decision. Completely different scenario in the fourth quarter when you're trying to not merely extend a 1-score lead to a 1-score lead. You can't do that. I can speak from experience in college football 26. Just ask my friend Andy. It did not work out for me in my championship game. Anyway, that was another decision that Rule really did utilize and take advantage of. As far as players go, there are a few that stuck out for me. You definitely like the fact that you can see Justin Evans getting downhill in some of those run plays right between the tackles. Evans, I thought, had a good game. It helped when he didn't go up against Corleone. But Corleone definitely did some damage at times, but Justin Evans is going to be just fine at center. I think that was pretty clear. I don't see how we can do this with Emmett Johnson for 9 Big Ten games, 32 touches. The depth behind him is troubling to me. You saw two guys, Mosey and Nelson. Mosey's got a little bit more explosion to me than Nelson does, but you're going to need to get those guys a ton more in these next 2 games with Akron and Houston Christian to see if you've got something there, because the depth at running back is very, it's got the heebie-jeebies. All right. Because if he goes down in game 3 of Big Ten season and you don't have him for 6 games or some scenario like that, or he's not 100%, not effective, this offense is not going to be as good. It's just not.
Yeah. And conversely, Emmett looked so good. I mean, it looked like the extra weight was really important for him gaining yardage after contact and turning 2 and 3 yard gains into 5 yard gains. But you're exactly right. Emmett Johnson can't live on 30 touches a game. Nobody can. It's too tough. No, I don't care who you are at running back. 30 touches a game, 12 games is going to hurt you. And yeah, it's a red flag right now. This is the benefit of Akron and Houston Christian, that between Isaiah Mosey and Mekhi Nelson, one of them can express himself as the next guy, as a guy that you can get 10 touches a game. And, let's not forget, Quentin Ives gets more time to get to work himself back to full speed to where he could be a factor in that discussion.
Yeah.
You know, with his hamstring injury through fall camp, he wasn't in a position, I think, on Thursday night to get a whole lot of work. Well, you've got 2 weeks to get him there. And so between those three guys, somebody has to step up, because you can't live this way where Emmett Johnson's getting 32 touches. I will say, you were talking about the offensive line, and Justin Evans played well. I thought the guards and the center, so Lutovsky, Rocco Spindler, and then Evans, I thought they played great. I thought they were really good. Tackle remains unsettled. We're still looking for definition there. And, in case you needed a reminder as to why there is some question, I mean, the Elijah Pritchett false start jumped up and down at you and said, hey, this guy might be the most talented, but the mental side of things has a way to go with him.
Yeah.
Prohaska was solid. Gatula played some and was fine. But it would be nice to get a little clearer definition at offensive tackle. I mean, there are some positions where I think you can get away with oars, especially among the starters. I don't think offensive tackle is one of them.
Yeah, we'll see what they do with that rotation. That was interesting, playing 4 different left tackles on the night, and just rotating them drive by drive. We'll ask Evan Bland his thoughts. We've got Omaha World-Herald's Evan Bland in the green room right now. He's going to join us in just a little bit, right when we come back here on the KLIN Husker Hour. More Husker football reaction as Nebraska beats Cincinnati 20-17 on Thursday. We're back with more after this on 1499.3 KLIN.
Giving you a complete review of the Huskers news this week. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
We now bring in another friend of the show, another friend who was in Kansas City on Thursday to take in Nebraska, Cincinnati, along with our friends Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Taylor Swift. It's Evan Bland from the Omaha World-Herald. Evan, good morning. How are you?
Morning. Yeah, you can throw me in the same breath as all those folks. That's just fine. Finally, got back from Kansas City. The traffic jam going up and down I-29. That was some experience, man. But a night to recover from a sleep perspective, and I'm ready to watch some good college football this weekend.
Yeah, I think we all got our share of I-29 and the quick trips and Casey's along the way. I think we've probably done enough of that for a while. Nate's not done yet. He's still down in KC, but we'll have to do that later. Not again very soon. One of the things that I would wonder about very soon with Nebraska is that left tackle rotation. Nate and I were just touching on it a little. What do you think the plan is there after you saw on Thursday Prohaska gets the start at right tackle and is in there every snap, but at left tackle you go through all of them. You have Gunnar Gatula, you have Tyler Kanak, you have Elijah Pritchett, and a fourth who's escaping me, of course. The revolving door there was interesting. I don't know if Turner Corcoran, yeah. What do you think the plan is there?
I think that, I mean, they did the or thing on the depth chart. They talked about that being the competition up through the opener. So I don't think whatever happened, I don't anticipate Nebraska settling on one guy next week. I think they really believe that there's very little separation there. And Matt Rule has laid out why maybe Elijah Pritchett hasn't run away with the job. And that's some of the mental stuff. And we saw that with the false start on the goal line that cost him potentially 4 points in that second quarter. Gatula got the start. I think he probably deserved that from all accounts of what he did in camp. Certainly the performance that he did last year when he began the year as the third string guy and comes in and did well. I thought he played pretty well from what I could see in the moment. And then Turner Corcoran too. I mean, that's a guy who didn't really get a chance in the offseason to show what he could do because of that hamstring that cost him the latter part of last season, and then really all through the spring and into the fall too. So I think they feel like those guys, for various reasons, haven't been able to kind of put their best foot forward and show what they can do for an extended time. So I anticipate that this competition will continue probably for the next 2 weeks. In an ideal world, yeah, you have a left tackle that's going to be out there every play and that's going to have a rapport with the rest of your starting group. But I would think, at least for the next couple of weeks, this is something they're going to continue to look at, finding ways to, evaluate these guys now that it's in a live setting, now that everybody's full strength, now that everybody has a game under their belt. So I would be surprised if they came out and there was one guy for Akron or Houston Christian. Maybe that'll be the case for Michigan. But that's just kind of where they are right now, figuring out maybe who fits best with what they want to do.
That was going to be my question, Evan, is there a timetable in your mind to declare a guy? You can use the Akron game to experiment. You can use the Houston Christian game to experiment some, but it would seem that it would be really important to know what you're doing there for the Michigan game, where you get sort of those subtle benefits from having a solid five, the five guys that know each other, that know what each other's going to do, the subtle benefits of consistency there. Is this something that they need to have nailed down before Michigan, or do you see it as something where they can kind of go with the hot hand as the year goes on?
Yeah, I mean, I think they could. That's certainly possible. If nobody separates themselves for whatever reason, you still could rotate, and you kind of know what you have. I mean, Corcoran's been in the program for many years, so you have a good sense of what he brings. Gatula has been behind the scenes until last year, so I think he is somebody that the staff is familiar with and what they're able to do. And Pritchett has been a 3-year starter in the SEC. Now, this was his first live action with Nebraska, right? Like, they didn't have a spring game, and so he was pulling farm equipment instead of out there in an actual sort of setting. But I think ideally, yeah, you find a guy to be that guy for conference play. You hear Matt Rule often talk about these non-conference games almost like NFL preseason games a little bit. Not that you don't want to win them or there's not intensity or importance, but it is sort of that chance to get your feet wet and figure out how guys perform under the lights. And sometimes that is a little bit different than it would be in a practice setting. You have kind of these gamers that are out there. And so I think, yeah, in a perfect world, these next 2 games are sort of like NFL preseason sort of opportunities for guys to show what they can do. And if you can roll with somebody into Big Ten play, all the better. And again, they've seen Corcoran in Big Ten play. They've seen Gatula last season in that setting too. It's just a matter of I think probably the small stuff, right? Like if you're in an or situation, it's not a matter of, hey, this one guy's way bigger or stronger. It's going to come down to the little stuff. Can you avoid the false starts? Can you be reliable in your protections? Those sorts of things, they're going to have a chance to show that here in the next couple games for sure.
Evan Bland from Omaha World-Herald joining us here on the KLIN Husker Hour. And one thing I'll add to the left tackle position, don't forget Teddy Prohaska on the right has had a history of injuries. You love seeing him out there for the whole game, but boy, if something else happens to him, you're going to need one of those 4 guys to flip over to the right. So that's another thing to keep in mind there as the season goes on. Let's flip over to defense, Evan. One of the things that I came into the season concerned about, Matt Rule certainly wasn't concerned about it, the defensive line, hell on wheels. I think they did fine, but you didn't see a lot of a pass rush, and some of that's the jack position from linebacker also. But Williams Nwaneri was the second leading tackler, but you didn't see Riley Van Poppel make that much of a splash. Keona Davis got in, I think, maybe for a TFL at one point. But what was your evaluation of the front line there, and how do you think they can continue to improve in that front 7 overall?
Yeah, they were closer to heck on wheels probably in the first game than anything else. And what I was curious about,
Nate called it discomfort on wheels. I think a couple.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. What I was curious about was how much they would rotate guys, and I think it played out kind of like the coaches hinted during camp, which was this was going to be a group that's more of an ensemble effort as opposed to a couple leading stars, the way that you saw with Hutmaker and Ty Robinson last year. And maybe that resolves itself a little bit as the season goes on and guys kind of show what they can do. But I mean, yeah, you look at the snap counts and it was very much spread out. And Cincinnati, their best rushing came from Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback, who was able to get out. I think maybe that's probably the most, like, if you're going to identify a concern, that would probably be it for me, was they were not really able to keep him in the pocket. He was able to roll out and get downfield at different times. I didn't think that their traditional running game got going all that well. They had a couple moments, Cincinnati did, but I guess I kind of look at the schedule moving forward and say, like, when's the next time Nebraska is going to see a running quarterback, a guy who's mobile and willing to move the way that Sorsby is? I think you got to get into Big Ten play before that happens. That's just not a style of play that you're going to see within the conference very much. So I guess I'm kind of willing to withhold a lot of harsh judgment just because that attack is a lot different from the kind that they will see. But there's no doubt, like, that was an important first game for them to see what they have, to see how they're going to be able to hold up. It does. A lot of that line does look a little bit undersized, I think, compared to what you're going to see in the Big Ten. So, they got a little bit of pressure on the quarterback. Maybe that changes when you're facing more of a pocket guy, the way that they will be pretty regularly from here on out. I thought there was potential. I mean, Williams Nwaneri absolutely looked like a guy who could become a disruptor. He had his moments for sure in that opener. I'm still of the belief that Riley Van Poppel could eventually look like and perform like Ty Robinson, just because of his leadership abilities and physically what he's able to do. So not giving up on him yet. I think the HE double hockey sticks realm is still in the realm of possibility for these guys, but probably a position as much as any on Nebraska's team that's going to learn from this first game. We'll see if they can take that jump.
Evan, I want to flip it back to offense, because a concern that I heard expressed to me, it's strange when a quarterback's play is somewhat concerning when he completes 79% of his passes. But it was a lot of underneath stuff for Dylan Raiola. The deep ball just wasn't there. And it also felt like the wide receivers were as advertised. I know last year you could kind of say, well, how often is Nair beating man coverage? How often is Jamal Banks beating man coverage? It's clear Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter are better at those two spots. And yet Nebraska wasn't able to get the ball downfield. Is that a concern moving forward, or is that something where the circumstances of the game aligned, where, Cincinnati was giving the underneath stuff, despite the timeless wisdom of Bill Callahan, you should take what's given to you instead of what you want in a lot of situations. Are you concerned that Nebraska wasn't able to go downfield more in the passing game?
The way I would put it is it's something I'll be watching moving forward. I don't know that they weren't able to do it. It just seemed like they weren't willing to do it, or that they felt like they could do what they wanted to do without risking that. I mean, what did we hear all of camp from Dana Holgerson and those guys? It's the routine plays. Make the routine plays. Be happy, be okay with the 3-yard gains, the 5-yard gains, and then let your skill guys make plays, and some explosives will come from that. We didn't see a lot of explosives come from that, but we saw some sustained drives. I think you'd feel better if that 16-play drive that they had in the second quarter would have resulted in a touchdown as opposed to a field goal in that spot. I think, it's comforting in the sense that, like, Nebraska is not asking Raiola, because he's a former 5-star, to go out there and just figure it out. Hey, roll out, make a wow play with your arm talent and figure it out. Like, they have a very defined system for what they want to do. They hit Emmett Johnson for short yardage and Luke Lindenmeyer, and they brought in Heinrich Harburg for a couple tush push sort of scenarios that both worked out. Yeah, they converted third downs, in Arrowhead nonetheless. And so, like, I think there's a definition for what they want to do. I just don't think they felt like it was necessary for them to take that risk for Raiola to potentially absorb a sack. Like, if they could stay on schedule, that it would work out. And it did. I mean, you want to score more. I thought they'd score into the 30s just based on what Cincinnati had shown last year defensively. So that was probably a little bit of an underperformance. But again, it's week 1. You've got a couple more weeks to get into a rhythm to figure things out. I think if you're into late September or early October and you really haven't seen much explosiveness in terms of downfield, I'd be a little bit more concerned about that. But we know the arm talent's there. I think we know that the speed at those outside receiver spots is there as well. Nebraska was just able to get away with not needing it and got a win in the process. So I would say it's something I'm watching, because that isn't an element that they're going to need at some point to win games. They just didn't need it in that opener.
Yeah, to that point, Stu Manji posted this on Twitter on Thursday night. Raiola was 5.78 yards per attempt. For perspective, that would have ranked second to last in FBS last year, and it's his 6th sub 6 yards per attempt game in Raiola's last 9 games. So certainly something to watch, regardless of whether it's the scheme, Dylan not taking shots, guys don't get separation. Definitely we'll keep an eye on that. All right. What was your record prediction for Nebraska this year, Evan?
8-4.
8-4. Wanted to check on that. But we'll get you out of here on this. We got to run. But what is your record prediction and AFC West finish prediction for your Denver Broncos this year?
Well, I can't pick them to finish ahead of the Chiefs until they do it. It's been too long. But I think they're a playoff team. I think they can be a wild card sort of team. It's still throwing me off the 17-game thing. So, 10-7, somewhere in that range. I think they can do it. They were a year ahead of schedule last year. I like Bo Nix. I think they haven't been able to find a quarterback since Peyton Manning. Seems like they have one now. Defensively, they've been strong. They have a head coach in Sean Payton who has a vision, who knows what he's doing. That hasn't always been the case in the last 10 years for that franchise either. So I think they're on the upward ascent. This probably isn't the year that you're saying Super Bowl or bust, but I think they can get into the playoffs and continue to show some progress here after a few definitely down seasons by the franchise's standards.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. Season gets started on Thursday on the NFL side. Chiefs play Friday, and then everybody gets going Sunday, Monday. So we're looking forward to that as well. Evan, thanks a lot for the time. We'll catch up with you again down the road.
Can't wait to hear that Nate Rohr third down call next Saturday. Should be fun. Thanks, guys.
Hey, I'm getting loose right now, big man. Thank you, Evan.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, we're almost there. All right. We got to get to a break. Volleyball talk when we come back. Absolute domination over another top 10 team on Sunday, and they play another top 10 team coming up tomorrow. Sweep last night. We'll get you caught up on volleyball right after this here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
With all the talk about AI these days, it's hard to imagine
Husker football, basketball, baseball, and beyond. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, Nate, ho-hum for Nebraska volleyball. 2 sweeps since we last spoke with our good listeners. Top 10 Stanford last Sunday, 13-19-14. Just unbelievable domination. They sweep Lipscomb last night as well. Lipscomb got 21-1. Otherwise, they were in the teens. And then they take on Kentucky tomorrow, number 1 team in the country, 3-0 and rolling.
Yeah, they did what they needed to do last night with the Lipscomb match, out getting some people into the match that haven't gotten an opportunity to this point. Depth a little more than you even have, although they've been able to get very deep into their roster. They were able to do that against Stanford. You look at the rest of this non-conference schedule, and if Nebraska takes care of Kentucky tomorrow, which is no small task, but if they do that, I mean, you've really got one more big non-conference match left, the match against Creighton down the road. And so this is one, it's kind of a house money game, really, because Nebraska's already got beaten 2 top 10 opponents. But if they win it, I mean, you go into conference play with an inside track on a top 4 national seed, which I think is the goal of what Nebraska's trying to do here in the non-conference. Of course, once you get into the Big Ten, it's all about winning the league. But at least here in the non-con, they've done what they've needed to do in really asserting themselves that they're one of the top 4 and they should be playing in the Devaney Center all the way to the Final Four.
Yeah, Utah also was, I think, 21st preseason. Not sure if they're ranked this week, but that's really the only other quote-unquote test that Nebraska will have outside of the Creighton match. The other thing I wanted to get to before we get to our last break and get you ready for your weekend, this game on Thursday was, of course, the debut of Kyle Crooks as play-by-play man for Nebraska football. I thought he did well. I listened to a few of the calls after the fact and certainly nailed the interception to end it with Malcolm Hartzog. But a really touching tribute during the broadcast as well to Greg Sharp. I know you probably have had a chance to listen to that as well. It was well done by the Huskers Radio Network to honor Greg and turn the page forward and get Kyle going as well.
Yeah, I for full disclosure, I haven't had a chance to go back and listen to a whole lot of what Kyle's been able to do. So I did hear a highlight or two, and he handled it well. And there's some challenges in calling games at Arrowhead Stadium. Folks may or may not know this, but the radio booths and the press box in general is the very top level of Arrowhead Stadium. So that's 9 floors up. So it's a really challenging setup to try and see just what's going on fully well. And the couple of cuts I've heard, he handled that just fine. I heard the tribute to Greg to open the broadcast and the first segment. Like a lot of people, I was making my way south at that juncture, and that was really well done and very important. And of course, Ben McLaughlin handled that quite well. Especially, in Ben's case, a guy who had worked alongside Greg for all those years, whether it was on football, as a football pre-post game guy, and then also on baseball. He obviously had a very close relationship with Greg, and it was important that he was the one that made that tribute, because he and Greg were in the trenches together so often.
Yeah, so a good tribute there. We'll definitely miss you, Greg, but glad to have Kyle along and passing the torch to somebody who did well in that first go round with Nebraska Cincinnati. All right, we'll be back right after this to wrap this show up, get you ready for your weekend. We'll be previewing Akron next Saturday. So we've got 2 shows without actual football to preview, but
talking season, no.
and yeah, we'll touch on Kansas City Chiefs team that gets started on Friday as well. So that's all coming up here on the KLIN Husker Hour.
You're listening to the KLIN Husker Hour. Executive Travel Talk is next on 1499.3 KLIN. your news. Talking with current and former Huskers and those that cover the Big Red. This is the KLIN Husker Hour on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Volleyball gets to the Devaney Center for the first time this season on Friday, Nate, after this match in Nashville today, or tomorrow, I should say. And then, the Huskers are taking on Akron in a week.
Here in the month of September.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us. Evan Bland, thank you. Thanks to Kenny. Thanks to Nate. Good luck getting out of Kansas City, Nate, with all those Husker fans who are still there. I'm Cole Stukenholtz. We're back next Saturday for another edition of the KLIN Husker Hour. Go Big Red.